So you sent me a copy of your book, and I was just saying to you now before we started recording that I promised I would write a blurb for the front of it, and I didn't. So I will promise to write a blurb for your next book.
I think I would have sold several thousand more copies if you had, so I'm going to blame you for that.
I have a suspicion it's the exact opposite. I think your book would have been censored if my name was in there.
Well, that would have made it a hot hit if it were censored. Yeah. I'm still waiting for them to come and arrest me and put me in jail.
Let me just open the PDF version so I can chat to you about it while we're talking here. So the view of the shrew unmasking the truth. That's the name of the book.
Yep. That's the name of it.
What made you
the view of it.
Well, what made you write the book? Or put it together or compile it or whatever?
Well, yeah, it's a compilation. I love the idea of writing books. I've written a couple that are out there. One of them is very personal about the ordeal with my wife dying of cancer. And the other is ancient Egypt and the basic cosmology of the ancient Egyptians and how it applies to personal psychology. This idea of consciousness of the heart as opposed to consciousness of the intellect, which is what we're totally mired in our modern time, is consciousness of the intellect. So those are those. And I knew I was writing all these articles for Shrewviews, and I've written, right now it's over 500, which I can't believe. I can't believe that much has been squeezed out of me. And I just, I always intended to write or to put together a compilation, because this is like 42 articles from the past 4 years. And is it 4 years or 5 years? I think it might be five now.
Oh, no, but the book says 2022.
It starts in 2022, because that's really, I think Shrewviews, the Substack started in 2022. The first article I wrote was for Off Guardian, and that was 2021, I think July of 2021. So we were in the midst of it, of the whole COVID insanity. And, that's what inspired me, got me going. And of course we have mutual friend Kit Knightley, who's a brilliant editor of Off Guardian, and that's how I found you, because I think you contacted him after. Do you remember that at all?
Vaguely.
You have so many people. Yeah, because he contacted me and he said you were looking to chat with me, and that you were a great guy and your Jerm Warfare was a great program, and so I contacted you and history was made.
I actually do remember that.
Yeah.
And funny you mentioned Off Guardian. It was one of the very first alternative media outlets that I decided to look for. Or let me rephrase that. One of the very first that I found when I was trying to figure out the whole COVID thing back in 2020.
Oh, okay. Same here, obviously.
Yeah, what a great publication it is.
Yeah, and I can't remember how I found it. I'm sure somebody told me about it. I think
you probably found it along the same lines as I found it. Basically,
yeah, probably. Yeah,
trying to find out what was COVID or where did it come from at that stage, because I didn't question its existence. I questioned if it was bad or mild,
Yeah, it's so interesting when you talk to people about their first experience with realizing that the whole thing was bunk, and how that came about. I can't remember exactly, of course, like piece by piece information, but it wasn't so much that the government is corrupt and trying to kill us all. It was just the way the whole thing was structured just made no sense. It just didn't add up as making any sense. And then it just went from there. And of course, Off Guardian was a big part of that education of understanding what was going on. So I was writing for them every week, and then I did the Shrewviews Substack and did 2 or 3 articles a week with that. And then after a couple of years of it, decided I wanted to put out the book. And so that's it. And the book came out in June. So
one of the first things that I saw in your book that I love is this this font that you use for the titles. It is a great font. The actual letters swing from left to right. I love it.
that's so cool that you noticed something like that. I spend a lot of time on those kinds of details, and it was funny when I first put the book up. I think it was on Amazon, the PDF version of it, the electronic version. They changed all that. Or somebody did. I don't know if it was Amazon that did. Somebody changed it all and sent the book back to me and said, hey, approve this. And all the fonts were changed. And I said, no way. You know, it's like the fonts are a big part, especially the title fonts. I mean, the book font is a standard Garamond, I think. But the title fonts and whatever, I spend a lot of time setting that up and making it right. It's cool that somebody actually noticed that. So thank you.
It's great. It's got so much character. Excuse me. And the other thing I noticed is so what is Ouroboros Publishing? Is that independent, or is that just
me.
made up? Oh,
it's just made up. It's me.
Well, that's
it's
clever because it's the snake eating itself. It's that Greek,
right.
the Greek thing.
The Ouroboros. And I spelled it A-U-R, like the sound, because I'm the music thing. But yeah, that's the Ouroboros has always been a symbol that I've been fascinated with. The idea of life returning, and there's all kinds of symbology around the snake and eating its tail and whatever. It's very ancient, been around forever.
Well, your font selection has, for me, immediately made it appealing.
Great, good. So if you're in the store looking at it, of course, it's not available anywhere in a store. You can thumb through it and go. Well, I think you can do that on Amazon too. You can read through parts of it before you buy it, so you'll see the font, because the font did stick with the ebook too. The only thing that's not in the ebook are the graphics in it, because there's a whole thing about the size of the ebook that you can't get the same percentage or something. I don't know, can't remember.
So
they're weird.
Your book is basically a collection of your Substack articles. Do you have any favorites?
I do, but I can't recall them. When I went through it, I had to choose the 42 out of probably about 150 or more, 200 or so, that I had to pick them. So I did go through them and kind of go, I like this one a little better than this one, and did have some thought behind picking them. And I would say if I really sat down and went through everything and really thought about it, I probably would come up with favorites. And I do, I publish every week on Off Guardian still. And I pick one out of the couple, I pick one out of my 300 or 500 that I have to publish there. So I do spend some time figuring out what Off Guardian would like. And believe me, it's limited. It's limited. Not so much because of Kit. I'm sure Kit would be open with, he's never rejected anything I've sent. But the readers there, they are, there's a lot of them that are wonderful and have been very complimentary, but then there's a handful of pretty nasty types. Now, I don't think this is a glitch that's happening over there, but my screen goes blank every couple of minutes. I'm hoping that's on my side. Okay, I'm hoping that's just me.
It's the system trying to reset.
That's right. That's right. Trying to get rid of me.
But if somebody were to now open your book, they've got a lot to read. If you just look at all the titles, there's just so much stuff. You cover a wide variety of talking points.
Yeah, I do. And I've gotten people. There's some people I won't name in my family that are totally on the left side, and they've never read anything I've written, and they claim that I'm this like horrible. I mean, whatever the worst thing you can imagine, Trump supporter, the anti-government, anti-authority, which that's kind of true, but. And most of the stuff I write, at least I feel this way, is coming from a place in the heart. I mean, it's not necessarily hopeful because I don't get into solutions, but it's observation, and it's my observation. I'm not an expert. I mean, if I'm an expert in anything, it's a bit in psychology, but I wouldn't even call myself an expert in that. But it's, I know psychology fairly well, and I know certainly archetypal psychology, Jungian psychology, which I do write a lot about. But it's more of observation. I think that's why the Substack is popular, because I can't tell you the number of times that people will write, I was just thinking this. It's amazing to me that you think along the same lines I do and whatever. And it's not simplistic. So it isn't a common denominator. I mean, in some ways it is, but I go into a bit of detail about why I'm feeling the way I do about something in particular. And I think that's why it's popular. I mean, it's like an everyday man, comment on what's happening with a little bit of philosophical, spiritual, psychological insight that I think people like. They like to hear things put into words that they might not feel they could put into words. I mean, they probably could, but I'm not saying that it's special in that sense and I'm some brilliant writer or something, because I know that's not true. But
no, you're definitely not a brilliant writer.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not. I mean, I'm not. Believe me, I've read some brilliant writing, obviously, and it ain't me. But it's funny. It's tongue in cheek a lot of times. I try to play with words and make things laughable here and there. Whatever. So it's popular.
I was joking. Obviously, I think you are a pretty good writer. I mean, you have to be if you are already looking at good fonts. I think
That's right.
I think that adds to the overall experience. But I was thinking one of the underlying threads, unless I've got this wrong, in your writing is you've got a little bit of a jaded outlook. Am I right?
If we're defining jaded the same way, yeah, I have a lot of I don't know if this is what you're saying, but I have a lot of frustration and confusion about humankind in general. I'm blown away by how, lack of a better word, how stupid the majority of people, or how blind or how naive or whatever that people in general have proven to be through all of this. And I'm not saying that to give it any kind of like, oh, well, we're superior because we see what's going on. But I mean, if you're gonna measure it that way, you could measure it that way, because I think if everybody were like us, and I'm not saying that we're brilliant. There's some of us that are brilliant. I mean, you could be brilliant. I'm fine with thinking
I'm definitely brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, that's okay. There are definitely a lot of us who are brilliant on this side, but they're brilliant people on the other side of this fence as well. So I don't think brilliance really has a lot to do with it. But anyway, the point is that I think if everybody or the majority of people were thinking the way we do, we wouldn't be having a problem. And in anything, really. I mean, we'd have little problems like we always do. I mean, even really the most heartfelt people can make mistakes and whatever. But this is the thing that I've come to understand. I think most people that's listening to this agree with this, that they came to this understanding as well. the understanding really is that this whole system is an agenda. It has a purpose behind it, and that purpose isn't for our good. And they may pretend it is. I mean, like if you're dealing with a whole huge mass of people and you can do anything you want with them, and say you have a mass of like 8 billion people and there's not enough food to feed them or whatever, then the first thing you would do is, I mean, I don't know if you've ever bred tropical fish. But there's a thing about culling, you just get rid of the ones you don't want. And, obviously this is a eugenics idea, and that's functioning here in a pretty big way. And, when you're dealing with masses, I mean, the people that are calling the shots can say, well, if we don't do this, the whole world's going to go to hell and everybody will starve. So if we get rid of half of the people, then the other half will be fine. And now that's a really simplistic example. Okay, it's not quite as simplistic as that. It doesn't have to be genocide. It doesn't have to be killing everybody, although it kind of looks like that's what they're focusing on to some degree. And so, they can say, well, we did the best thing for the people. And you can look at it that way. You can say, well, the agenda, and most of the people on the left that I talk about what the 17 sustainable developments of the UN, whatever that is, I can't remember exactly what it's called. I think that's right. They look at that and they go, well, that's a pretty good idea. I mean, those are good things, to make everybody, to eliminate poverty and to make clean water and all of that. And you go, yeah, but how are you going to get to that? You've got to consider what you're going to do to get to those extremes and those ideological sets. And nobody seems to think about that. And you have a mass of people like the population of the world, and they all have the right to live their lives. And yeah, you can make their lives better, but you don't get rid of them. Or you don't put them in such a place you have total control so that then you can divvy out, enough food or enough health care or enough clean water or whatever it is that you as an agenda has decided is going to be rationed off. I mean, we hear about all this all the time, with the social credit scores and the this and the that. And everybody thinks it's for our own good. And it's not. And I wouldn't be surprised if the upper echelon, the agenda, actually is clearly evil and nefarious, that they don't even think they're doing a good thing. And that's where you get into kind of mucky water with that idea, because it's hard to prove that. It's hard to prove that these people that are calling these shots don't think they're doing something good. But I don't know. What do you think of that? I mean, do you think they know they're evil? Do you think they're like Ike's lizard people or the devil or whatever?
I've thought about this. No, I don't think they're evil. I don't think they think they're evil. I don't think Klaus Schwab or Bill Gates or somebody in the black nobility or whatever, I don't think they wake up in the morning and think, right, how am I gonna be evil today?
Yeah, right.
No, I don't think that. I don't think anybody actually thinks that they're evil. I don't even think a murderer or a rapist thinks that they're evil. They might say, I made a mistake, or I was drunk, or I was angry, or something. I don't know if anybody anywhere thinks that they are evil. I don't even think Satanists or those sorts of people think they're evil. I think the idea of evil itself, like the definition, I think that shifts depending on who's looking.
Yeah, and what you're saying, I think it makes an assumption that people are of sound mind. Because I would totally agree with you with people that are sound mind, but there is a psychopathology. There is an insanity that can seep in that causes people to believe what they're doing is in service to what we would define as evil. And they're looking for power. They're looking for whatever it is that their senses tell them is important to them.
Yeah, and
And
Todd,
if
it's also always the other person who's evil. If you look at, let's just zoom out, right, and look at, let's say, Gaza. Now you've got the Zionist lobby that sees them as the great evil, and we must wipe them out because they are the evil ones. If you switch it around, they'll say, no, it's the Zionists who are evil. We are the innocent ones. And in many ways, there are degrees of I suppose of evil, but it's never the person accused of being evil who is the one who will reflect and go, yeah, I'm the evil one.
Yeah, I think if you look at using Gaza and Israel as an example, neither one of those sides are going to say we're evil. No. But they will both say the other side is evil. But that, again, is assuming that what information we receive about that is accurate. And the information we receive about it, I don't mean the detailed information, I mean the general idea that you've got two factions that are warring with one another and killing one another. And if that is true, then what you just said makes perfect sense. But I don't think it's that simple. I mean, I think that there is an agenda in all of that. I mean, I can't prove it, and
no.
I'm not 100% there. But
sorry, I'm jumping in here, but I agree with you. There is an agenda, and I think there are multiple agendas. I don't think there's just one agenda. But what I'm saying to you is, unless David Icke is right.
We always got that. It changes everything.
It changes everything.
I know it does. Yeah.
So, but let's just for the moment assume that there are no reptilians, and
right?
There are no shape-shifting people out there. Then they're all human, and because they're human, they suffer from the same condition as you and I.
That's right.
And that is that they will think that they are acting righteously. I don't think Klaus Schwab actually thinks that he's going to make the world a worse place. I think he genuinely thinks, whether we think it's evil or not, he genuinely thinks
I agree.
that going down a technocratic route is for the betterment of mankind.
Yeah. It was just what I was saying a minute ago. It's like, if you can move masses of billions of people around in a particular way, you could end up with a culture that could last a very long time and everybody, be relatively happy or whatnot. And who cares about all the ones that fall off the edge, the useless eaters, as they say. But yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I think that if we do have reptilians and if we do have a true...
It changes everything.
It changes everything. And, that's why those ideas are popular. I mean, I just wrote an article about, I think it was The Devil Made Me Do It was the title of it. And, I addressed that possibility that maybe this evil is actually incarnate. Maybe it is a physical devil or even not even necessarily material, but still an autonomous entity that, or Ike's idea of the shapeshifter, that I mentioned that in the article. Well, and if that's the case, then, we've got a totally different game going.
Well, look, going back to David Icke, Francis Leader, who's been on my show, did one of the most fascinating episodes with me, I think, that I've ever done. And she spoke about the black nobility. And these are the true sort of controllers of the world. And you're talking about like 13 bloodlines or something. Mm-hmm. Now, she doesn't claim that they're reptilians or shapeshifters or whatever, but what is very, very profound is the overlap between what she's saying and what David is saying. That these people have no sense of ethics or morality at all. Okay, so that makes them completely sociopathic.
Right.
So we see that as evil. They just don't see it as anything. They just see it as, well, we need to depopulate the world because we need a better world in which to live.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting into some really interesting stuff, because we could like say, well, what are they doing it totally self-serving? Is it like they see a world that they would be more comfortable
Well,
in?
obviously
with
it's
their
self-serving, Todd, because they're not the ones who want to depopulate themselves.
No, but generally social pathology or psychopathology is individual.
Right.
It's like like, was Hitler self-serving, or did he have a vision of a world with, and I mean, he's always a good example to use with stuff like this.
Everything always
Just
goes
make
back
it on
to
a
him.
global.
And everything goes back to Hitler and the reptilians.
That's right. I mean, when you think about the whole world, like think about a Hitler figure or a group of people who represent the Hitler concept. They have a vision of what the world would be best to be. Is that totally personal, because then they can fly around in their jet and they can go to fancy places and have lobster every night or whatever? Or is it that they actually are slaves to their own vision of what the world is? And it just so happens they have to destroy half of it to make it what they want it to be. So it's an ideology. It's not necessarily an individual, because you can individually be very comfortable just going around, killing a few people and stealing a couple of $1 million here and there, and buy your jet and whatever and fly around. You can do that for the individual self, still psychopathology, but not mass. And I think that's what we're dealing with. And, I do believe what you just said, that people that reach that point lose all sense of empathy as humans. They don't see other humans as the same as they see themselves. They see them the same way we see ants. I've written about this a lot of times. Ants are getting in your house. You kill them. You wipe them out. You get rid of them. You don't think about them. You don't think about the individual ant family who has babies and whatever, because that doesn't really exist. So they become something that is other and very easy to identify as other. And so you don't have to be a reptile, and you also don't have to believe in an entity like the devil in order to do what you just described.
Atheists, even Satanists, who for the most part are atheists, they don't believe in an entity called the devil.
I don't know enough about the actual program of
Well, I know that
Satanists.
because I interviewed a priest or deacon or whatever, elder, whatever, from the Church of Satan, and he argues that the way they see the devil is abstract. It's not the way that Christians claim that they see the devil. But that's neither here nor there. Actually,
yeah,
sorry.
it kind of. I mean, that's fine, and that doesn't really change anything. I mean, most people believe in God, but they don't believe God sits on a throne with a long white beard. They believe in Jesus because he was a physical being on earth at a period of time. But they don't see him I don't think they see him as a physical being anymore. I'm pretty sure they don't. If there are any Christians out there, please correct me, because I don't necessarily know everything about that. And I would think that there are different groups of Satanists and Luciferians or whatever
Sure.
that may think of things differently. They certainly see the symbology, I think. Now you could tell me if I'm wrong with this, because you've actually spoken with them. And I have not. But I think they do see the symbology of the devil with that, whatever that goat figure is. I never can pronounce its name. It starts with a B. Bofat or something.
Yes.
Yeah, whatever that is. So there's a lot of symbology, I think, the same way as there is with God-fearing people, no lack of better words. There's a lot of symbology in the master of the universe, the idea of the God that oversees higher power, whatever people like to call that. I can see the devil people doing the same thing, but I'm not quite sure where the idea of destruction and what we're calling evil here comes into that. It's very natural for me to think of good things like no suffering and beauty and love and happiness as being the drive, that creates the God that sees over that. Where does suffering and death and destruction, where does that become a drive for people other than to have power? And that seems like a very materialistic kind of binding approach.
One of my guests made an interesting argument. He says that evil doesn't exist, and that people just behave or act in a form of madness or psychosis. And I've thought about this because it's a very interesting claim. And yeah, we can define evil, but evil is always defined from the other person. It's never the person who is evil who is defining it. So in other words, everybody's pointing fingers at everybody else saying that's evil or they're evil. We don't like the way the Chinese handle animals. We think that they're evil. They'll go, oh, but we don't like the way that you do X, Y, and Z. So that's evil. So everybody else is evil. And so therefore, if everybody else is evil, does evil even exist?
Well, evil, in my view, evil as a thing, as a concept, it does. Evil's like comparing evil with good is like comparing hot and cold. Evil is a result of the lack of God. It's like the lack of being aware that there is more to life other than the physical. I think, and this is just my opinion, I think evil only exists in the material realm. So the material life of filled with fear and belief that the material is the end all, that death will take you at any moment, and once you're dead and you're gone. Then that spawns evil. It spawns evil action to preserve the material individually, selfishly, for self as long as possible, and to fill that period with as much sensory satisfaction as possible, which means consuming, whether it be drugs or jets or anything material, that power, having power over other people, being able to eliminate people, whatever. That's where the evil comes from. And it's a lack of God. It's a lack of understanding that the material life is not the end all, that it's only an experience that will end at some point. Maybe it continues in a reincarnation, whatever, who cares? I mean, it's like it's not the entire purpose of being.
Yes, but Todd, that's again you pointing fingers, because that person with all the yachts and the material items, that person doesn't think that he's evil.
I don't think that in and of itself is evil. I think it's the acquisition that can be evil. And, I'm not arguing with you. I mean, I agree with that. That's a bit of a, kind of an esoteric way to look at it. Everything is esoteric. I mean, anything that has any depth and meaning to it is. I mean, it gets complicated. Like, what is good? I mean, what is morality? What is moral? I mean, my psychotherapist, who is a great prolific writer and has been around forever, and I think we talked about this last time, this idea of the Nietzsche concept. And I don't know enough about it to even say, I shouldn't even say anything. I shouldn't associate it with Nietzsche because I could be totally wrong. But it's this idea of morality, that morality is a human construct, that there really is no way, and it's an individual human construct. It's just what you're saying. It's like I can point to somebody who just cut the ears off of a dog and say they're evil, where, maybe in some countries that's a delicacy to eat dog ears. I don't know. And to them, it's not evil at all. So what is it that makes it evil?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what I'm asking, because that was the comment that was made by a previous guest, and I forget who the guest was who said this, but it was very interesting.
You forgot who a guest was? Do you forget who I am after I leave?
Of course. I try my very best to forget you.
That's evil.
This is why I keep inviting you back so that I don't forget.
That's good, right? Anyway, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No. I've been interrupting you also. It's just because it's what do you call this? Like it's a free flow of ideas here. And I'm just kind of riffing on the idea of evil. But I'll shoot myself in the foot and say, yes, I do think evil exists. And in a very simple kind of way, let's say there's an old lady sitting on a chair on the side of the road, and I go up to her and I tell her that I think she's wonderful. I hope she has a lovely day, and maybe give her a flower or something, and then go on my way. Now that's obviously a good act. It's an act of kindness, or just if you genuinely mean it, it's just a beautiful thing to do. Mm-hmm. Now, if I go up to her and I start swearing at her for no reason and slap her, laugh, and then run, now that's very obviously a bad act. It's a you could even say it's an evil act. And unless I'm psychotic, I should know that.
You know what you're boiling down to, which makes perfect sense, is evil. We can redefine evil just to say from a human perspective. It's a lack of empathy. And, it's a lack of connection with love. So you don't like that either. Yeah.
No. I'm not sure. I think it was Steve Jobs who once upon a time, it might have not been Steve, but okay, I can't remember, but I think it might have been him, where he made the comment that too much empathy leads to an unsuccessful life. In other words, if you've got empathy all over the place, you don't go anywhere. You don't succeed because you're so worried about other people. And it is
that's a different thing. That's a different thing now.
Oh, is it?
I think so. I think that's codependence. That's I mean. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm not arguing with you. It's just, too much of anything typically does not serve well for anybody. Certainly too much empathy becomes codependent.
Let me rephrase those thoughts, because in hindsight, I was just throwing out word salads. But the less... Okay, hang on. How do I say this? A lack of empathy can correlate to success in your career, for example, because you're not worrying about those around you. So in other words, if you look at those people who are successful, are they empathetic?
No, they're evil.
Wait, I need to have a sound effect. I'm sure I must have a sound effect.
We just go around in a circle there.
Yes.
No, I mean, the argument with that is just, is success in business the end all? Is that the purpose of life, is to be successful?
No,
that's
not
a material success. And sure, you could stomp on everybody's face to be successful. It doesn't necessarily mean you're evil, for sure. But you're within that. I think, again, it's a bell curve, like almost everything is. There's like the center of the bell curve where you can have great success and also be a really wonderful person, altruistic and loving and whatever, but still be very successful. There is a place where that happens, but I think the outliers to that are people that are ridiculously materially successful. And that's when I use the word success, I mean materially successful. It's a whole different thing if you're of the heart successful, which generally doesn't bring you a lot of material goods. Now, of course, you go into New Thought and you go into that philosophy, then being good in the heart creates material success because the material world is part of that.
But it's definitely relative
going.
Because so like a bushman, success to him might be being able to feed his family.
That's right. And when you have non-material cultures like that, that's usually what it is. You know, if they have a weapon that they can go kill animals with to feed the family, then that's their material success. That's what you can have. But there isn't much else. I mean, they don't have TVs, they don't have cars, they don't have big mansions. So there isn't a lot of other sensory extravagance that they long for. I mean, this is basically a European thing, I think. I mean, you know, anybody out there that understands that better than I do. It's like most of you probably. But it is interesting how most of this material focus came from European cultures that have moved, you know, around the world and whatever. The indigenous peoples of most lands in the world are not materially focused. And they're known for that. You know, we talk about that all the time, like they're one with nature and all of that kind of thing, which has significance in what we're talking about, because we're all caught up in this materially focused culture, which is worldwide now, which is global. I don't think you can go anywhere where you don't have it, because when people see other people with it, they want it. And that's what we call success. You know, third world means they're not as materially successful as first world. It has nothing to do with the goodness of their heart. Nobody measures, you know, great cultures that way. So,
But, I mean, do you think those things are important?
Do I think what?
I mean, genuinely, do you think those things are important? I guess it comes down to the question is then what is the purpose of waking up in the morning? That's ultimately then the question.
Well, don't you think that one of the primary problems with the world now is that people are too materially focused, that they're consumers?
Yes, I do think so. But at the same time, though, it depends, because you have to break apart some of the stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you do need a car for the most part.
Don't. Well, in the culture you do. Sure, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, and also, what I mean is, that if you live in Amsterdam, you don't need a car, right? You can get around. But I mean, like, if you live in South Africa, you need a car because there's no public transport.
Yeah, but yes, okay. I know if I woke up tomorrow and I had nothing, no physical things at all, I would probably die in a few hours. Okay, so yes, I think you can be in a culture for so many generations and generations where there are things you physical that you take for granted that you have to survive, like a car. And, you know, generations ago it was a horse. Generations before that it wasn't. I mean, you walked around. You didn't, but the whole culture was different. Everything was different. You didn't need to, you know, you stayed in the same square mile for your whole life. It's like, you know, obviously I'm not going to give up my cell phone because I believe that the more pure life is one without all the technology, because I wouldn't survive. I wouldn't survive physically either. I mean, I need to go to the doctor because of various reasons. I'm not going to stop or anybody. I mean, I don't have this situation, but somebody that is on like heart medication or whatever, that if they stop it, they'll die. I don't think anybody's going to do that in the name of you know, transhumanism. We should live a natural life, and if I have a heart condition that'll kill me when I'm 50 years old, then I should just die. I don't think people will do that. I also think the world would be a different place where somebody that did do that before medicine would live, because the reason they have a heart condition is probably because of the culture.
Of the medicine.
Or the polluted air, polluted water, the fact that they sit on their ass all day, whatever it might be. It's just different. Does that make sense?
Yes, and that makes sense, but I think what I'm getting at here is one of the criticisms I have for those quote unquote on our side is that they preach from the pulpit basically against all technology. Throw away your cell phone, throw away your TV, throw away this, throw away that. And I don't know if that's actually all that helpful. Catherine Fitz makes a very good point. She says, no. Just discern. You know, these things are here. They're tools. They're not evil by design necessarily. I mean, right now, you and I are using computers and the internet to communicate. If we throw away these things, you and I wouldn't be able to communicate, and I wouldn't be able to do what I do. So I do like technology, but I also appreciate that it can be used for bad, but it can be used for good. And so that's where the discernment that Catherine refers to comes in. And I don't like the sort of rather radicalized idea of throwing away everything and going, because basically then what are you going to go live in a tree?
Well, yeah, that would be your option. I agree with you pretty much 100%. I think that the problem, and I always use this as an analogy, I think the problem with this problem is a matter of top-down or bottom-up solution. A top-down solution is thinking erroneously that throwing all technology out is the solution. That's top-down because it's dealing with the symptom. Bottom-up is changing the basic trajectory of human development. And it just along the lines of what you just said, it's like as technology comes out, to be discerning and to be aware of what its purpose is. I don't think because we're humans and we're different than the animals, because the animals never evolve. I've never known an animal to invent a watch or a cell phone or anything. That hasn't happened yet. I mean, they just go on and on and on, generation after generation, doing the same shit. And humans are not like that. They're too clever. They're too curious. They screw around with the elements. They find a piece of metal in the ground and they beat on it and turn it into something, whatever. I mean, just on and on and on. I don't know if that will stop or should stop because we're humans. I'm sure a lot of people think it'd be better if it did. And then we would just be like apes living out in the forest, and eons would go by and we wouldn't change that much, whatever. But the bottom up work is much more difficult. It takes generations to change. And I know some people are not going to like this when I say this, but I think a big part of the bottom up work is a belief in the metaphysics of reality, is a belief in God, however you define that. I don't think there's a human definition of that even comes close to what it actually is. Okay, but a belief in things that, in empathy and love. I mean, love is the number one thing, but what is that? An awareness that we're all unified, and that we're not individual, bags of flesh, and just, live a life, and when we die, we're done or whatever. I don't know if there's a heaven, and actually, I don't even think there's time. So, where does that go? That's bottom-up work. And I think when that takes place in an effective way, I think that people will not create the technology that destroys humanity. I think they'll have enough sense to know not to create it to begin with. And not, I mean, there's stuff being created now that we never would have even thought of wanting, 100 years ago. I mean, some of this, obviously any of this bio warfare crap and it's like we're coming up with the whole gain of function research and all that. I mean, it's like people didn't even think that was something. Maybe one or two people did think that was something. Well, one day we're going to be able to do this. We're going to be able to kill the whole world in like one little, it's like people didn't think that way. And I didn't think the majority of people did. So that's bottom up versus top down. And yeah, absolutely what you're saying, top down, getting rid of your cell phone, go living in a tree somewhere. That may change your own life, but you're in a culture now that you can't just wipe away. The cat's out of the bag. It's like you can't, yeah.
No, but also it's as Kit Knightley often talks about, it's a fake binary, it's a false dichotomy. It's not one or the other. It's not
right
buying wholesale into technology or getting rid of it.
Right.
It's in between. It's nuanced. You're dealing with complex
tension
systems.
Of the opposites. Yeah. Well, this is going into another discussion which we don't have time for, but this, and I think we touched on this last time, this dichotomy, this polarization of thought. It's like it's gotten to a point now that has been moving to this point since the beginning of COVID, or even before that, where this side of it, the side we're supposedly on, has such an extreme part to it that it's like you just go, why are we over here? It's like, this is so ridiculous, this extreme, we can consider it. We've always talked about stuff like that. I think we're better off considering it. But essentially to be polarized like that there's no solution, because you can't go to either extreme and exist. It's definitely somewhere. It's not even necessarily in the middle, but it's somewhere not on the extremes. Put it that way.
But that's why I asked you at the beginning if you're quite jaded. I'm pretty jaded at the moment. I'm going through a bit of a jaded phase.
Yeah, I am too. Yeah.
And it's because I feel so deflated. I'm in many ways burnt out, because exactly like you, I look around me, and I said this in my latest Substack. I look around me and I quietly judge people. I'm secretly rating people on a scale of 1 to, you insufferable moron, you insufferable sheep, you establishment hack.
Yeah, right.
And as a result, my anger levels are like through the roof, at any given point. Because I also look around me and I'm going, how is it possible that there are so many idiots? How can people be so stupid? And I know that it's not good to say stuff like that, because people learn at different speeds, But some people don't want to learn, regardless of the speed.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I think to myself, is any of this worth it? You go through years and years and years of fighting these battles, and now you get completely and utterly inundated by, I hate that word, sheeple.
I know.
I really don't like that word.
I use that a lot.
Yeah. No, I also use it, but I don't like it. I think it's corny. But I do feel quite jaded, and as a result, I feel quite exhausted, because I'm thinking, what is the point? Let me give you an example. So, Todd, I just spent almost a month in China, and I had the opportunity to go and see for myself what's going on, and you can only ever see a tiny microcosm as a tourist, but that tiny microcosm is still a lot more than nothing. So, for example, if you wanted to see for yourself if South Africa is this sort of violent hellhole, you come and visit, and in a space of 10 days even, you'll realize that a lot of what you think is false. It's not that bad. And you realize that there's nuance, and that it's all based on where you are. It's not equally distributed. It's concentrated, and blah 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 blah. And I've been sharing my views on my Chinese trip, and it doesn't matter what I say. You'll get these sort of indoctrinated, brain dead zombies who will just keep parroting what they were always parroting. And I sometimes wonder if people, is it fear? Do people not want to have a mirror held up in front of them? Do people not want to have a rug pulled out from under them? Maybe. And so therefore they will project. Or is it that they want to believe something because they want to project? I don't know what it is, why people sometimes remain so steadfast in what I deem to be, a garbage view.
Yeah, I recently wrote an article that I think this week came out in Off Guardian called, I can't remember exactly what it was, something about, people believing their own truth and sticking with what they believe their truth is. And it was amazing how many people commented on Off Guardian from that extreme themselves and just prove the point of the article, like writing as a comment that I'm an idiot because I believe all kinds of stupid garbage that isn't real, that I believe that that Charlie Kirk is still, that's dead, and that he's really still alive, and that I believe that nonsense and all this stuff, and went back into, like, this one person went back into, like, years of articles. At least somebody's paying attention to what I write, and I'm like going, that you're just giving an example of exactly what this article is about, is this dogmatic belief. And we talked about this last time, I think. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the feeling I'm getting, I'm curious to know if you're getting the same feeling, is just to say, I don't want to know anything anymore. I just want to know what's in front of me in the morning when I get up. I want to know my wife is there, who I love. I want to know my family is there, whatever. I don't want to know anything else. I don't want to know about what's going on in the world. I know that's very naive, and that's ignorance is bliss, but I don't know. And then when the end comes, it comes. It's like when the soldiers march in to grab me, to inoculate me and jab me with a vaccine or whatever. Then that's just what happens. It's like just what we were talking about earlier, drop dead of a heart attack or whatever, and then it's over. But at least you live this life. At least at my age, I think I'd be different if I had small children. I mean, you want to see the world better for them. And I'm not saying I'm going to do that, and I'm not advocating that, but it's something that I'm just sitting here going, why am I focusing on all this junk when the people on our side that's focusing on it too are some of them are just as crazy as the other side? They're just as extreme. There's nothing to put your finger on and say, oh, well, this is really what's going on. And I don't know. It's just
way too much friendly fire.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it's a good way to put it. Yeah,
it's as though I sometimes wonder how organic it really is, and how engineered it actually is, by design. Because, okay, so yes, a great example, 9/11, right? Okay, so there's the official story, which I think is clearly bunk.
Mm-hmm.
So, therefore, I'm more interested in the opposition stories, the alternative stories, right? And there are many, but basically it comes down to two. It would be, controlled demolition or directed energy weapons, depending on how deep you've dived.
Right.
But either way, these are not the official story.
No. Right.
So what happens now, Todd, is that you get people in the alternative space fighting with each other to the point where it all just falls apart. And those holding the line on the official narrative look at the opposition going,
yeah,
what a bunch of clowns. How can anybody take them seriously? Right.
Exactly. And you see that in almost every one of these major issues that we turn, not just 9/11, but we see it. I mean, you're not even at the bottom of the...
COVID is the same thing. So COVID is the same thing. So there's the official story. Then there's the alternative story. And you find virus, no virus. And even people who are in the alternative space who might believe that SARS-CoV-2 was real, then you get the other people in the alternative space going, well, you're a controlled opposition, you're a shill because you believe SARS-CoV-2 is real. So now you have the people in the official camp looking at the various people fighting in the opposition camp, and they go, oh, you bunch of clowns. How can anybody take you seriously?
Yeah. No, and you've got that infighting going on, like I was mentioning the articles I write. I'll have a line in an article. It won't even be the focus. That'll say something about the lab leak theory was completely, obliterated because of blah blah blah. And somebody will comment to say Todd believes that there's a real virus.
Yes.
So there would be a lab leak.
Yes, exactly.
And you go, don't you even understand what I'm saying here? I'm not talking about whether a virus is real or not. I'm talking about basically what people were focusing on. Yeah.
I want to hit my head against the wall because I get the same stuff. So I'll have a guest who will be talking, it doesn't really matter, about anything, okay? And it is fascinating, extremely interesting conversation.
Right.
And then somebody in the comments goes, oh, what an idiot. He thinks Earth is round.
Yeah, right. It's exactly the kind of thing. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, where's my gun?
You should bring your gun out in every one of your interviews and just sit there with it for a few minutes.
I got a pellet gun here. Since we're at the end of the conversation, before I come in for landing, shall I just quickly grab it? It's behind me. I'll hold it for the final bit here. Hold on one sec.
Yeah. Wow. It's got quite a scope on it.
Well, this is a pellet gun. That's why it's not in a. You can't really see it. I don't know. But there you go.
Well, how far away will it shoot a pellet?
I don't know. 30 meters, 40 meters. It's got a scope, so
you couldn't have gotten Charlie Kirk with that. He was too far away.
Nah, he would have been too far away. And plus, if you shot this thing at Charlie Kirk, you might have hit somebody in in like the Coke stand or something. Selling Pepsi or Coke or whatever. It's way too inaccurate. But the point is I'll happily use this. I'll gladly use this on some of these people that comment. I don't want to get the video taken down, so I want to make sure that I'm referring to a pellet. It's a pellet gun. It's a pellet gun.
Yeah, right. So that's a totally different thing. Yeah.
It'll just hurt you a little bit. That's all.
That's right. Yeah. On that note,
okay, Todd,
there's so much more to say. I mean, we could sit here for the next 2 hours and babble on about this.
But I'm so frustrated, man. I'm so frustrated. I wish that our side, quote unquote, I always have to use quotation marks because that's how bad it's got. But I wish that our
But that's all part of the agenda as well, you know. I mean, that's all part of the trolling and all of that is to do just what you're saying.
I just wish they wouldn't fight like this publicly. I've got a general personal policy that the only people I fight with are those who I deem to be the enemy, and I don't deem people on my side of the fence to be the enemy, even if we disagree.
Same here.
If you're generally opposed to the established position or the establishment or the established argument or whatever, like if you are the person trying to push a COVID jab, you're my enemy. So if you and I have disagreements, on something to do with COVID, but we both oppose that person, then we're on the same side.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's a broad stroke.
It is, but my point is, I mean, I think it's an art of war strategy. If you want to start winning battles, sow seeds of discord in your enemy, and our side is completely disjointed and all over the place. Yeah.
No, you're right. It's funny. It's funny how I can come on this show with you and go, wow, everything you're saying is exactly what I've been dealing with personally myself. And I think that's interesting how this whole thing moves in a particular direction that other people like you experience the same thing I'm experiencing. And this is one of the things I said earlier that people that on my Substack will always say, gee, I was just thinking that this morning. And it's the same thing. I was just thinking what you're saying just a few hours ago. And,
all right. Todd, how can my audience get your book and follow your work?
The book is The View of the Shrew, and unfortunately the only place you can get it now is Amazon. So that is where it is. And the Substack is Shrew Views, www.shrewviews.com. And that's shrew, the little animal, and views, like looking. Okay. And love to see you there. It's a great community, a lot of like-minded people that are pretty much all in the same place. There's some people sometimes disagree, and that's fine. And there's discussion and whatever. So love to see you.
Todd Hayen, thank you for joining me in the trenches.
Thank you, sir. Loved it.